This is not...
Okay. Oh no, destruction. This is intensely uncomfortable. That's okay. Okay. Yeah.
So...
Okay. Is there a self-publication movement? Is what you're doing right now unique in terms of being something, something that you're just doing, publishing a comic book out of your own house like this and everything?
Yeah. Ultra Klutz isn't really all that unique as far as a lot of other people are doing similar things with Xerox. They're doing comics out of their house like I am. But it is unique. If you compare it within, I guess, the past 5 years or so, nobody's doing anything quite like this.
So you're saying that maybe this is kind of a new movement, something that hasn't happened before.
I think it's a new movement, but it's not a new movement in the sense that there's a new cultural thing happening. It's just a change in technology. The fact that people can produce things on Xerox now means they're doing it and getting it out. I think that would have happened at any time, but the technology wasn't there. Like, for example, in the early and mid-'60s, people used to do fanzines on mimeograph, which is a cheap, crummy-looking thing, but it still wasn't as accessible as Xerox. Maybe people who knew somebody that worked at a school could go have some stuff run off, and you'd have this, ucky purple comic book. But now anybody can just go down to the copy place, and if it's a town with competitive places, 4 cents a copy. And it looks good. So I think it's just the technology rather than a cultural thing.
How do you see what's happening now with what you're doing in relation to the underground movement in the 60s and the early 70s?
I think that relates the same way. It's like it's not really I don't think this is really a parallel with the undergrounds because again, it's the technology. I think that if there was a movement for this type of material as there was back then everybody would be publishing it, with 10,000 copy press runs, but they're not. During the undergrounds, they were at the real peak. The really hot stuff was, being printed 50,000 copies. But now it seems it's like a movement, but it's I don't know how to say it, but it's just the technology. It's not the audience.
It's a question that you can make a product that nobody will even like and still get it out there.
Right. And maybe only 50 or 100 people are going to read it, but it still just gives you that much of an audience to encourage you and get some feedback and some experience. So I guess...
So that's why you're in it, because it's certainly not where you want to be.
No. It's something that it's so small that you just can't keep doing it because there's no growth. There's no satisfaction. You feel like you're selling, a few hundred copies and then that's it. You can't, what else can you do? And you start realizing that the only people that are buying them are other people that publish small press comics.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's happening to me. It starts getting to be kind of frustrating. It's like, well, this is all there is. So you need to get out of that and get up and go into another stage. You need to graduate from the small press. So it serves a function. It's there for people who want to start, but you can't stay there. It's just...
Unless you have no ambition.
Yeah.
No particular desire to go any further.
Right.
So that leads to, what kind of plans for expansion do you have?
What I'd like to do, something that's printed on newsprint with color covers, but it's got that it's a valid comic book because it's got the color and because it's got newsprint.
And the full size.
And it's full size and it fits in the rack and it's something the distributors will carry. And even though it's the same content as what I'm doing now, the same work, people will look at it and accept it. Whereas now it's an oddity. People.
It's small press.
Small press.
Because no one else will publish it.
Yeah.
And it's same exact story as if you're publishing it in offset printing, but it has a more panache.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess the small press attracts some people because it's odd, but there's so few people that look for the different things that it's just got to be more slick. You just got to go through the system. You got to use the distributors and play the game. And so that's what I'm going to try for.
As far as you did the one printing one, the underground, and this the new one. There's a. Well, I'm just wondering how you look at undergrounds now, because I know.
As far as anything new that you would call an underground that's still coming out?
Well, just the old undergrounds, because the new stuff really isn't.
No, it's what? Yeah, what is it?
It's overground.
Yeah,
kind of. It's got. In terms of something that you could show your mom.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I still like the old undergrounds. That was a big influence, but it's weird. It's got such a bad connotation to say underground because it's associated with financial death. No sales. And like when people at conventions, they say, "Oh, are you an underground artist?" And I say, "No. Like that one girl that was into undergrounds, she wants to say, "I'm an underground artist." And that's just like saying, "I don't want anybody to buy my stuff." I mean, it's admirable. You're trying to make a statement, but why not make a new statement? I mean, even small press, kind of fits under the guise of a new statement more so than saying something is underground. You're just saying it's old-fashioned. I think.
Yeah, whereas in small press, you're saying you're totally independent.
Yeah, you're into this new age, new Xerox deal.
Yeah, and the attitudes are somewhat different.
Yeah, it's clean.
Well, John Howard isn't necessarily clean.
Yeah,
he could have been an underground.
Yeah.
How much money do you make on Ultra Klutz? Is it a profit making thing?
No, I don't make any money. I just try to keep it so I don't lose money. I just try to work it so I try to price the book so it's just a little bit more than breaking even on the printing costs, just so I can cover advertising and just supplies and all the miscellaneous junk that I gotta buy. So I just try to keep it all even, and any extra money that comes in goes right back into ads or whatever. So I try to make sure I don't lose money, which would be real easy to do.
Yeah.
And I try to make my books cheaper than a lot of people do too.
For competitive edge.
Because some of the prices are really outrageous.
For what you get.
Yeah, you get for $2 you get a few pieces of paper.
Okay, there was the underground, and you did the one issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, what happened? I mean, it never.
As far as I guess that was like a big disillusioning process when I did the underground. I thought I'm just going to print this book and it's going to be real pretty and color and slick and everybody's going to sell it for me and I'm going to be famous. But I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about promoting or advertising, or I just thought I'll just draw it. It's going to be great.
And you did, and you're still available.
I still have many copies to sell you.
Okay, so you did it, and then you dropped out. What brought you back into brought it back out again in the new form?
I guess it was the Francis Mao, the Freddie and Eddie, and all that stuff, which was I was still doing a few things. I drew
from what's Freddie and Eddie?
Well, the strip in the Buyer's Guide, which is the sort of a trade newspaper, ads and articles about comics, straight Superman comics and all that. And I was trying to get a strip in there. And there's another guy that does a strip called Freddie and Eddie, which is sort of like little cute anecdotes about collecting these little kids that make jokes. And so I tried to get something in, and I wrote to the guy and asked for advice. I just was curious, how many times have you submitted work, and how long have you been trying to get something in here? And I mailed him a copy of The Underground just as a sort of a trivia thing, like, oh, this is what I did, check it out. And he says, oh, well, you should write to Kevin Collier, who does a thing called Fanzine, which is a sort of a junior edition of the Buyer's Guide, which is made just for small press. And he says, write him and tell him about it, and you get free news coverage, and he'll probably sell a couple hundred copies. I thought, great, So I that's how I got involved in that, and I wrote and I bought some of the small press stuff, and
just sort of got into it.
Yeah, just got involved, and just found out, wow, there's all these people publishing.
It became feasible again.
Yeah. And that just gave me an opportunity to, because I always had wanted to redo Ultra Klutz as a new #1, a new beginning, clean it up, give it more of a plot. So that gave me an opportunity to actually draw a camera-ready, printable comic, and have somewhere to print it and do something with it. Even though it was a few hundred copies, it still gave me an audience instead of,
of a reason to continue.
Yeah. Is that it?
No, we should probably, because I felt awkward about it. We got into a real role there, I think.
Yeah, but some of the things just kind of went and died.
Yeah.
If you can think of any.
How long have you been into comics? How long have you been into comics?
Into real comics,
Have
I
you
mean?
been into comics?
We used to read Archie comics and Casper and all that stuff. When we went on family vations, read those and they crumpled up and we'd throw them away. But and then I quit those, because you're too cool. And then but that was when we were just like 7 or 8 years old. And then when I was about 12 or 13, I got some DC comics, some ghost comics and really intense stuff. And just loved them, and I just got 3 comics, and they were just so great that from then on I spent all of my allowance every week on comics. And every week I'd ride my bike to the 7-Eleven and come home with a bag full of, back when they're 20 cents a piece. And I just kept going, and I guess I collected until I was about 15 or 16. And I just had to stop. I started getting embarrassed about them because I was growing up, and I was thinking, geez, and I even...
Your comics are for kids.
Yeah. And I remember, even though I was a kid, I was only 13 or 14, I started getting embarrassed buying them in the 7-Eleven, so I got subscriptions to sort of hide the fact. And then...
Closet case.
Yeah. And then I just let those expire, and I just kind of quit. I remember, being about 15, and oh my God, if I had like a girl in my room, I just close the closet, just whoa, didn't want that stuff to be seen. And that was about when I just totally quit.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I must have quit a little earlier, but there was, I guess, a gap of a couple of years, and then I bought some undergrounds. I got about 5 or so undergrounds in the mail. I guess I was about 17 or 16. And I just got all fired up about that, started collecting those, and that influenced the first underground Ultra Klutz. That's I thought, wow, I can do this, but it didn't work. But I still had all my comics. I still had 1,000 comics or whatever. And then later, I think it was because Ultra Klutz Underground bombed out, made me get disillusioned about just underground comics in general. I stopped buying them and quit, being interested.
Yeah.
And that kind of made me, gave me a bad taste about underground, so I kind of got out of that. And then I started buying comics again when the independents started coming out. That was kind of fascinating that there was something other than just DC and Marvel. Mm-hmm. So I started buying again. And I still, habitually bought a lot of crummy comics, just the superhero stuff that I just had always bought. I just kept buying them out of tradition.
Yeah.
Regardless of if a particular issue got bad or not, I would just have to maintain the run of that comic. I had
just to have the full series.
Just to have it. And then recently, I guess about the last year or so, I've finally been having some scrutiny, and I don't like it, and so I won't buy it, and just only buying what's really great, what I really enjoy, like. I go to the store and buy comics. I should bring them home and want to read them right away. And if I don't want to read them all, then it's something that I shouldn't buy.
Yeah,
so I
so
quit.
much more expensive now.
Yeah. And plus I've just been selling my comics off like crazy. I peaked out at a little over 2,000, and I'm just selling them right and left now because I don't have that sense of collector duty where I've got to maintain all my comics.
Moving behind that post.
So now I just buy a lot of alternative stuff, just different things, the kind of things that I want to do, Cerebus and stuff like that, Styx Inferno, if another one will ever come out. What's kind of funny though is that I don't buy a whole lot of small press comics either. Because a lot of them are really bad. But I buy a few still, and there's some really good ones, and I just kind of staked out which artists I really like, and then I'll just get their stuff.
Yeah.
But there's really a lot of junky stuff that...
The reason it's self-published is because nobody would...
Yeah, nobody wants it, and I don't know, it's kind of... I don't know if it's... I don't know, there's a lot of stuff that I feel like it's so bad that it shouldn't even be a small press comic. It's kind of cruel, I know, but there's some stuff that I've got in the mail that is like stuff I was doing in 5th grade that was just really raw, but I just don't think I had any business trying to ask money for it. I mean, there's certain stages you got to go through. You got to learn how to draw, and then you show people your stuff and you get feedback interpersonally, but I don't think if something is so raw, you should be mailing it out and printing it, and this, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of opinion, I guess, but I just think there's a certain, you should still expect a certain level of quality even in small press. It should be legible, readable, something that is, I don't know.
With a plot.
With a plot, or either that, or maybe it could be so zany and off the wall that it's funny. There's some like that, but there's some that you really can't read because of grammar is so bad and the art is so bad you can't see what it's supposed to be that it doesn't function as a comic book.
Yeah. Okay, as far as what's happening with the book now, you're into issue 5, and it's not going to go anywhere from here in terms of the self-publishing thing.
Yeah.
What's going on with you're going to redo it in comic book format then?
Yeah. Yeah, number 5 is going to be the last one, and then...
You want to do that again?
Yeah, I'm going to... Did you want the question in there, or you want me to just go?
Yeah, just start over.
Yeah, I'm going to stop with number 5, and...
Sorry, I'll start over.
Yeah,
I should never...
Now we're going to be hurting. Yeah, number 5 will be the last one. I'm going to stop that as a fanzine, because... I even knew, well, for one thing, it's been a year. It's kind of nice to just, a year is how long I was into that. And, but when I started doing the fanzines, I knew that the stuff that I was drawing was eventually going to be for potentially going to be a real comic. So that gave me the inspiration to try really hard and put a lot of hours into the drawing and do a nice job, is thinking that, well, this can still be used later. So I figured I'd use the year as a way of getting experience, getting reviews, and meeting deadlines, doing ads, sending out, making contacts, knowing who the good review people are, and just a whole mess of stuff that I gained experience at without investing thousands of dollars. So. I got that experience, and now I feel a lot more confident going into doing a real comic instead of, and plus getting letters. I drew issue 1, published it, and I've been getting letters and reviews along the way, which have helped shape the book a little bit. Number 5 reflects a little bit of some of the feedback I've got along the way. So now I'm ready to go for something more major, and I was even thinking of stopping at 4, but 5 I pretty much had to do because the plot was just all over the place, so I needed to just tighten it up. just for the sake of the few, 50 fans or whatever that care.
Just for the continuity of it.
Yeah.
So you're going to go. When are you going for the new one, the big format one?
Yeah, I'm thinking probably like when I graduate. That's going to be June. But I'm going to have to get everything ready because the beginning of summer is a real good sales time, I think. I think it's the same as with movies and stuff, kids getting out of school. I think that's the best time. And I'm going to have to do a lot of stuff in advance, because of the way the system works. And I got to create a logo and do a lot of stuff. And I got an ad series planned that I'm going to have to make sure it's all set and camera ready and really choreograph this thing so it's going to work. But it should happen right about the beginning of summer, a little earlier maybe, I hope.
What's the financial outlay on that?
I haven't really looked real hard yet, but it's basically costs about $1,300 to print the comic.
How many issues?
For 5,000 copies.
So you're going to go for 5,000 copies?
Yeah. And that's pretty much the minimum of what you got to print to get a decent unit price. And then you have to commit yourself. You have to start advertising and start gearing up. And then you send out all of your promotional deals to the distributors and see how many orders you get, and then that determines your print run.
Uh-huh.
So if I take in more than 5,000 orders,
then you'll print more.
Yeah, and I'm going to try to print. I'd like to print a couple thousand more than what the dealers want, because you figure you're going to have reorders,
issues, yeah.
or other distributors you couldn't pick up right away are going to jump in if you start having some success.
That way you won't have to order them; you'll have them.
Yeah, I'll have, and I would prefer to have the book be accessible and not sell out and be hot. You know, I want people to get it. I want it to get into all the stores and be accessible maybe until number 3 or so. Then if it sells out, then. But I don't want it to sell out right away.
Yeah, but at the same time, you don't want to have a lot on hand.
Right, I don't want to have too much.
So you're talking about
a couple thousand more than what I solicited for.
Okay.
And then what I really have to look at is the cost of advertising, because I have a plan that's going to be a component ad series of 26 installments.
Huh.
So you figure if the ads are going to cost, even if you can get them cheap for $20 a shot, a real small space ad, that's $500. That's not too bad, but that's only in one place. You really need to run them in at least 2 or 3 trade publications. So I got to...
Now we smell it. Okay.
You going?
Yeah. What are your plans for expansion?
It's going to, the content's going to be clean, but it's going to be... Oh, what do you mean? Oh, wait a minute.
Let me show you.
No, I can't see any indication of whether it's on or not.
It's good.